Hello, everyone, and welcome back to tonight's episode of Apolla's Odyssey. I'm your host, Apolla Asteria, and tonight's show, I'm going to bring on Cathleena Hailley. I am excited to learn more about what she has in store for us in regards to the mind matrix. And this is my first time kind of meeting her because we're going to both be speaking at Camp Disclosure in August. And if you haven't checked out Camp Disclosure yet, make sure you go online and check that out. Just Google Camp Disclosure. It's going to be in Georgia, I believe, at the end of August. And there's going to be a lot of incredible speakers there. So I've been kind of going through and interviewing some of the speakers that are going to be at the conference coming up. Before I bring her on here, I just want to remind you all that if you want to help fund my show and keep it going, I have a lot of amazing art up on shamanspears.com. That is www.shamanspears.com. My new Odyssey collection is now available, and this collection is really awesome because it actually has these like silver staves. And if you don't know what shaman spears are, they all have copper coils, crystals, magnets, and sand collected from sacred places around the world. Down the insides, they also have naturally magnetic hematite sand, which scientists have found is in our brains, which is kind of what causes us to all be interconnected telepathically. So definitely make sure you check these out. Also, I have some other kind of interesting items. I made some Organite initiation key necklaces and Organite dagger necklaces, and I have a few pyramids left. So if you would like to help keep my show going, I got the studio that I have been getting together. I have a lot of equipment that just came in, and I just got back from a week of traveling. Literally just got off the plane. So if I am fumbling my words a little bit during this show, I may be a little jet lagged, so please bear with me here. But yeah, I'm really excited to be getting into the studio next week. I will be getting all my new equipment in there, and it should be ready to go. So very excited about it. So look forward to that. All right, let's bring Cathleena on here.
Hi.
Hello. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So I'm excited for tonight's show, and it's nice to meet you for the first time. I was telling the audience about how we will be speaking at Camp Disclosure in a few months here, and that was definitely a very fun event for me last year, so I am looking forward to it.
Yeah, last year was so interesting. It was the first time I ever went, and I really I wanted to go, and I originally wanted to buy tickets, and then kind of last minute, when I went to purchase my ticket, they were all sold out, and then I think this was before all the craziness began to happen. And so anyway, by the time I actually realized that I couldn't get a ticket, but then through a series of events, I ended up showing up there, and not only showing up there, but being able to talk about, which I'll just share in a second, this Arcturian technology that I have, and meet a bunch of amazing people, and so then here I am actually officially going to be speaking this year. So it's pretty exciting for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I kind of randomly showed up because I was in North Carolina and I heard about the event while I was already out there. I'm like, you know what? I want to hit up the end of this because I was doing reports for a third phase of Moon, and I figured James Gilliland would be a great interview. So I ended up hitting up a couple of days of it, and I had a really great time.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, see, and nothing's random, right? I mean, that's how it works. It's like when you're supposed to be there and you're supposed to meet the people, and here you are coming this year too. So how exciting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, so I want to get into a little bit of your background. I'm read up on you before having you on the show, and I'm really excited, very, very interested, and I'm definitely excited to learn some more about what the mind matrix is. But before we get into that, can you tell us about your journey and what has brought you to who you are today and why you're here?
Yeah, sure. Well, I like to tell the story that, I came in on, and some of the first things that I noticed as a very small child was that when my parents would speak, I would hear their thoughts, and it was different from what they said, and then I would feel their emotions, and it was even different from that, and it was just very confusing. you know, I mean, a lot of people probably think, wow, that's interesting because, you know, always telepathic. But you have to imagine what that was like as a child when you're feeling you know, you're hearing their thoughts and you're also feeling them. And especially when they're going through a lot of confusion. So it was pretty challenging. And so fortunately, my father, I think he was pretty awake, although he was pretty out there. And, you know, we went in and out of all these different churches early on. And then we got introduced to transcendental meditation. And I was only about 6. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing for a 6-year-old to learn.
I know, right? And trust me, that was the last thing I wanted to do was come in and meditate. But I did. And I realized later that when I did, that there were 2 individuals that I would sit with and we would sit in a triangle, and it was Mary Magdalene and Jeshua, Jesus. And then when I would sit with them, I went deeper and I was taken to the Akashic Records. And that's when there was the Arcturians and the Andromedans and the Council of 9, in which I worked later. I didn't know who all these were until much later, you know, but I have a memory of that. So that's kind of my coming in. It's interesting because, you know, as I've kind of gotten to where I am now, I identify myself as a frequency alchemist. And I recognize that my soul signature, the way that I chose to incarnate, carries basically the 0 point of all frequencies. So I'm like frequency, all about frequency. And so you know, growing up, when I reflect back about what that's been like, what's been happening for me is that the way that I incarnated and this energy that's moving through me, what it does is when I'm not ever arbitrarily speaking, and when I'm standing next to a person, it's like my soul, whatever energy that it is, connects to the deepest part of the person in front of me, and in their deepest truth. And, you know, most people aren't living their truth. So what would happen is that I found myself not being able to speak at times and say things and being like a chameleon for a lot of my life, because I was being directed around by who they really were. And because it wasn't spoken, I didn't know what was going on. It was like I didn't know what to do with it, you know. And so it was this really interesting experience. It was very difficult. So it'd be like if somebody, you know, I had an example in a relationship that I was in, that this person, you know, said they liked animals. They didn't really. And I had in my home, when we met, the animals were on the couch and all these different places. And then I found myself, when I was reflecting back after the relationship ended, that I had corralled these animals. I had slowly taken them off the beds and did different things. And that wouldn't have been anything that I would have done. And so that was a more obvious, right, on how I would operate. But as a child, it was really hard. You know, it was very interesting for me. So yeah.
No, this actually sounds very familiar to me. I feel I'm very much the same way in regards to kind of having a bit of a ability with being pretty telepathic with the people around me. It's interesting how it works, because a lot of people, when they think telepathy, they think, you know, it's just like reading minds, like words, but it's really kind of like feelings, or not even feelings. It's hard to really describe.
Yeah, because you're in a field. Well, it's because we're all one. So what we're experiencing is the truth, because we are the truth. And so, you know, it's just that I couldn't not experience that. I can't not experience it. So I have to be, which I found, you know, in neutrality in myself, especially in social settings or meeting people, you know, especially if I'm wanting to date, because otherwise I'm bouncing all over the place and I can't function. It's kind of like, because they're bouncing all over the place. And this is the kind of thing that's going on all the time. I think that many people can relate to what I'm saying. And that's why I kind of want to give voice to it a bit more, because I do think it's not just me and how I chose to incarnate. For myself, I've never not been able to do this. And so what's happened to me because of it is I never could really get close to anyone, super close. I have close friends, but that real letting go, it's like it's only really happening more now. So, because I've really stepped in, because you have to go that extra level of faith, trust, surrender, and knowing yourself as source to really, let go when you're that empathic and you're that aware of everything, because you're aware of all of the stories that are playing out too, everything that's going on. And imagine this as a child, when you just know, it's like, too much of the human crap, and that leads into the mind matrix. Actually, we can talk about that, but unless you have a question.
I would love to hear more about that. I know before the show you mentioned possibly doing a clearing.
Yes.
I didn't know if you wanted to do that now before we get into the rest of.
Yeah. Let's do a little bit of just a little bit of clearing and kind of opening of the energy here a little bit wider. It does feel pretty good, but let's just step in a little bit deeper. I'm going to open this space for divine miracles, for divine healing, according to divine law and order. I'm going to clear out any and all lower frequencies, any limitations, and open for the highest and best for all who are listening, and the highest source love and the highest source light. Ah.
Woo, I definitely felt that.
Wow. There we go. Now it's lighter.
Yeah. Wow, it's almost blinding.
Right. Whew, that's good.
Wow. Okay, so the mind matrix.
Yeah, sure.
So I had some questions lined up for you, but I think maybe before we get into those, would you like to describe what exactly the mind matrix is?
Sure. I have to tell it in a little bit of a story. I mean, I could tell you directly, but it might not make sense. I mean, directly, it's, these pentagonal shaped boxes that have created a matrix within your mind and within your body. But let me explain that a little bit. So, we are consciousness, and consciousness is information. And so we're information of source, because we are a unique aspect of source here in the physical form. So we're basically information of source. We're consciousness. And by design, the way that it works in the physical body is that we take this consciousness and we download it into our physical brain. So the consciousness is the software. The brain is the hardware. We download it in, and then it communicates to the body, and then it creates outward. It's what is designed to happen. But that's not what's happening. So you get any feedback? I was hearing a little bit of something. It might be, sorry.
I'm not hearing anything on my end, but
that's okay.
Maybe there's a little bit, but
Oh, okay, that's fine. I was just hearing a little bit. So anyway, that's not what's happening. So what's happening is that, you know, we, instead of us downloading our consciousness, what we're doing is we're taking this giant consciousness and we're sitting it inside these little boxes, which are these pentagonal little pentagons, and purposely pentagon because it's a closed grid. And so they're these little pentagon-shaped sort of boxes energetically, and they're not even, and they're sitting in different ones, and those aren't even communicating with each other. And so it's as though we're taking this consciousness, sitting in these little boxes, listening to a book being read to us. And then we're taking that information from that book and we're downloading it into the body and then using it to create. So what the book is the collective beliefs. And so what this mind matrix is it has been created by the collective beliefs based on fear. So when we come into this life, when we incarnate, you know, we are pure consciousness and coming in. And so the ascension process is the body is ascending. We're not ascending. We're fifth dimensional or higher beings. We have entered into a third dimensional body, and the body is ascending. So we come in and then that's why we forget who we are, whatever. So anyway, but when we come in, and as soon as we start to understand anything, we are basically indoctrinated with the frequency of fear, because we are told what it means to be a man, a woman, all these different things that we're told. So we're creating limits and the frequency of fear, and then that is what we are using, you know, for our communicating with the body and communicating outward. And so these sort of the lines, so to speak, of these boxes are these layers upon layers of collective beliefs. That's what this whole mind matrix is. And it's not just in sort of the brain, it's within the whole body. That's why you have patterns of disease, you have patterns of all kinds of things that are going on and repeating, because they're all about frequency. And so these belief systems are at a very dense frequency. They're within the frequency range of fear, but they're also they're only in, you know, very lower frequencies, you know. And so that's what's created this whole mind matrix. It's just kind of a brief idea. I can tell you more about it.
Wow. That's really incredible. You know, I actually have a friend, Brian Galloway, who wrote an entire book on beliefs, and it was really fascinating, because it really kind of, like, when you really look into beliefs and just the idea of them in general, like, you know, it's really like how we build these entire systems around us in the mind matrix, as you're saying. And, you know, a lot of people, you're mentioning creating fear. A lot of people, I feel like, probably kind of see fear as something that is outside of them, that is like happening to them, but really we're creating it all ourselves. And, you know, we're creating our own beliefs, and beliefs are just a really fascinating thing. They can be very powerful, or they are very, very powerful. They can tend to be very dangerous, or they can be great things. I mean, wars are started over beliefs, and it's really fascinating when you really delve into the idea of beliefs and what they are.
Yeah, and the different frequencies, it's really all we are, you know, everything's about frequency. That's all we're doing in human existence, is basically matching frequency, because consciousness, we're a frequency. That's what it is. It's a wavelength. And, you know, fear is not an authentic frequency, because it doesn't have a pattern. You know, it's a chaos frequency. So the way I describe it is like, you know, like those little dreidel, the Jewish kid's toy, it spins. And so that will spin and spin and spin and spin. But if you took something like that was off balance, because that's perfectly balanced, then what it would do is wobble. And the only way that it starts is we restart it. And that's fear. Because fear only exists because you keep starting it and chasing it. And that's why the old adage is nothing to fear but fear itself. And if you just let it play out, it has nothing, because it's just bouncing all over the place. And what it's doing is it's using these belief systems. So it takes kind of sort of a category of belief systems and keeps them in a dense frequency and then bounces between those. And then you have aligned to that. And this idea of matching frequencies is that, all we're doing is matching frequencies in order to be comfortable. So the idea would be like if you think about frequencies just as emotions, and a faster vibrating frequency always tries to raise a slower one up. It's just the way that it works, universal law. So imagine you and I come around each other and say I'm happy and you're mad. What's going to happen is my happy is going to give your mad a bump. I'm going to irritate you because I'm vibrating at a higher rate and my frequency is going to try to raise you up. Now, as long as I maintain my happy, you only have two choices. You either get happy with me or you go away. And I mean, how many times have we been around somebody, right, that you're happy, they're mad, they're not happy till you're mad? Because it's about matching. So as soon as it comes matching. And this is this idea of what this whole false matrix is all about, is it's all this, and it uses the mind through the mind matrix, through the control mechanism, indoctrinating you with belief systems, then having you think that that's all you are, forgetting that you're source, these are your limits, your limitations, matching those over and over again, because everything is frequency. I mean, your clothes, your everything. So, and here's something interesting. So remember when I said to you that, we are not ascending, the body is ascending. So as you are bringing in more of your soul signature, which is vibrating at a much higher rate, you're actually irritating your body because you're vibrating at a faster rate than your body. And also what's going to happen is those lower densities are going to start to come out of your body, right? But as they're coming out, they're going to be seeking a match. And so your goal, and you asked about the 0 point earlier, so your goal is to stay in the now moment, in the zero, in the present moment, and just simply allow as those continue, and don't become them, because they're going to come out of you. Now, maybe some processing that you might end up doing, but they're gonna leave as you are ascending. And this is the thing that happens. And so some of the first things as people are, embodying and shifting that matrix and all that, is that things tend to fall apart in their life and they start to freak out. And that's how the fear matrix jumps in. But when you start to realize that, of course, it's going to do that if it's not authentically aligned to what your soul and your soul path and your heart, if it's just your mind that's been leading the way, well, most likely it's not aligned to you. But if it's in your heart, it's not going to, you'll see as you continue to, ascend, bring in more of your soul, you'll see how it only gets better and better. And the relationships that you have, if they are authentic, will only get better. So anyway, that's a whole other.
Wow, that is really incredible. Some of what you said there was just really fascinating. And what you were just mentioning at the end, were you kind of referring to the dark night of the soul that people tend to go through at certain phases in their lives?
Well, I'm just talking. Yeah. Well, that is a bigger piece, but it can be small. People they'll be praying and say, "Oh my gosh, I want life to change." I did, like something as simple as like, "Oh my God, I don't know where my money is, and I really want the abundance to come in." And then, so they end up kind of finding a surrender in it if they can, because that's what I say to people is that, this is the millionaire, this is the relationship, everything is right here, because everything's about matching frequency. So whatever you're vibrating is what you're matching. And so this is the cool thing, is you've got your entire that you're seeking is right here. All you have to do is get into the frequency and vibration of it. But as you're doing that, I just lost my total train of thought here. Sorry. It's just like, I just left that.
Oh, it's okay. I actually have a question for you while you're going through that. I thought, how would you describe your divine purpose, and what are you here to bring to the collective?
Yeah. Well, I feel that my divine purpose is to bring really what I'm sharing with you, that that this it doesn't seem easy. And I say this a lot, but it's actually, I say it's really easy and really hard at the same time. But I think it's to, or I know, to participate in the releasing of all that doesn't belong to you, and help you step into all that you are. And there's a lot of things that, for me personally, that I do, in terms of sacred geometry and stuff like that. But I'd say, just in a simple way, that's what it is. It's describing in something and trying to be as simplistic as possible. I know what we were talking about before was about the dark night of soul. And I was just saying that, the idea is that when we go back to this thing about money and abundance, if a person's seeking, money, and they, suddenly start to get the abundance, their whole being is changing. And that may be a huge catalyst that triggers, or releases, many different things within their body that what I'm talking about. So it doesn't have to be necessarily the idea of the dark night of soul. It can be something as simple as, what am I asking for? And you don't even realize that if you surrender in a moment with that, there's a shift that can take place, and it can shift all the frequencies, everything in relationship to that, for you, which could be your partner.
Wait, when you say that it kind of causes these things to leave your body, are you talking about physical things, or just sort of different frequencies, as you were saying? Or is there another way of explaining this? I mean, is it childhood traumas? Is it all of the above?
It's all the above. Yeah, it's literally that, this body, right, is vibrating at a particular rate. And so imagine that, you've got these boxes of belief systems that are dialoguing to all different organ systems, all things in the body. And so as we are basically releasing, and the idea of releasing is really just no longer choosing to experience that. And you can start out as simple as just saying, I'm really not interested in fear anymore. Now, it's still good. That's what I mean, is it will still play out, and it may be in your body, and it may come out, and some of it may be in physical. I've seen, tumors leave, all sorts of things, these types of things happen for sure. But the thing is that, if you really just are done, and you can make those statements and really be honest with yourself, you'll be done. But it doesn't mean that the body isn't done, whatever it is. And yes, it may be that so the idea of coming out of your body would be, sure, sometimes it's, past life stuff, or it's this life, or it's, just emotions, or there's just all kinds of things. That's what I work with privately with people. I do a lot of things about that. And, I can see in the human body, the other thing that we're talking about is that there's what's called a human template, and that's what I call it, and see it. And so, in order to have a physicality, you need to have some kind of container. So, so consciousness just simply expands, and but it also exchanges information. Remember, it's information, so exchanges information with other information. So if we didn't have a kind of container, it would just expand and keep exchanging information. But if you think about the egg and the sperm, right? So the egg is information, the sperm's information, it enters and then starts to divide, so it's exchanging. But the reason that it goes on top of each other is because there's kind of a container, this egg, until it gets big enough. Well, that's the same thing with us, is that there's this kind of container that's called this human template. And so this human template has this unlimited ability to create. We as conscious have an unlimited ability to create within this human template. So as we are embodying really who we are as the information of ourselves is connecting more to this human template, right? So basically, as we're coming into fullness, neutral with that, everything that is not authentic is going to be leaving as we're coming in. So that's kind of the idea of what is actually, so it can be a very physical experience, you know, that you're having in all levels.
So you were talking about the template kind of aligning with everyone's personal truth frequencies. And I'm just curious, how do you feel someone can really discern what is their truth? You know, a lot of people, I feel like that we kind of get programmed by things from, you know, what we watch, the people around us. And sometimes it can be a little hard to discern, like, you know, what is actually aligning with their own truth. And so, I mean, do you have any advice on how people can really tap into that and just be discerning with that in themselves?
Yeah. So, well, when I'm referring to that, first of all, it's the frequency of truth. There's an actual frequency, which is the 0 point, because it is the place of no thing and all possibilities. So that's the actual frequency of truth. So literally, when you are in the present moment with no judgment, is when you are fully your multidimensional self and you are one with all things. So that's really how simple it is to know what truth is for you by actually being present. The way that this matrix has worked is, if you notice, nobody's present. They're always in the past or in the future, because that's the design. Because the present moment is where you are one with everything, and that is where your absolute creative abilities are located. That's where you experience all of you. And the other thing is when you're in that 0 point, you are your multidimensional self in the body. So if you operate from that, that is your truth. That is who you are. But we're not doing that. So it really is as simple as that.
That's really incredible. You know, yeah, the 0 point energy, like the 0 point feel, has been something that has been coming up a lot for me lately. Have you ever heard of the Mariannes that were part of the French Revolution?
No, I'm not sure who that is.
I've been on this show recently, Beyond Mystic, with Jean-Claude, and he always gets into them. They're kind of these women that apparently they sort of embodied the 0 point energy field. So they would go out into the middle of battle, into the middle of battles, and just kind of stand there in the nude. But it would like represent like the vulnerability, and it would just kind of bring in a 0 point field into the middle of these battles. I thought it was really fascinating.
Yeah, that is fascinating. And I could see how that could happen. If they were in, they would have to be in pure neutrality. Because that's the idea of 0 point is, you know, or it's the truth frequency is what I say too. It's just present moment. It's present moment without any judgment. And the most important part of that is the self-judgment. Because and you're in your heart. Okay, you're in your heart in the present moment with no judgment. You're not in your head, you know, saying, oh, because that's what I call the false neutrality, or the false, you know, 0 point, is when you're in your head. Because what will happen then is that's what happens with most people is they get present and then they start to, oh my God, now what's my life? What's going on? And that's why they say, well, that doesn't work. But that's not, you're in the frequency of fear there, and you're in your head. No, present is when you're actually dropping your heart and you take a breath and you just, you know, recognize the chatter that's going on and you have no judgment about it. That's the actual neutrality.
You know, something that comes to mind for me is vulnerability and surrender.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So, how is the mind matrix affecting all of us?
Well, I think it's, you know, because it's all the belief systems, and I mean, it's perpetual, you know, so the more that we continue with these beliefs, especially all the limiting beliefs, you know, what you can and can't do, the way that you're, you know, meant to create, all these types of things, it's perpetuating health issues. Like we're not meant to have these health issues that we're having. You know, we're God, we're sovereign, we're free, we're meant to have heaven on earth and be, you know, happy and joyous and exploring and having fun. And so this earth, if you realize, people haven't been very happy for a long time, you know, and this is the effects. It's coming from this indoctrinated way of, you know, how you're meant to be. It's like, no, you get to have choices. Remember what I said to you about the earth template? I mean, the human template is that it's unlimited how you create in the physical body, and what frequencies and energies that you create here are what are radiating out there. That's how it works. So we just don't understand who we really are and our true creative process. Here's the other thing too, is that, you know, this entire earth experience is emotional. That is the whole purpose of this earth. And we have what are called resonance frequencies that Source had in mind for this earth, and they are love, truth, beauty, and goodness. And so these are what we're meant to be experiencing in all fashions of them. But we haven't been, because like I said, the way that this matrix is created is to only have very dense, like survival and, you know, urgency and anxiety, all these types of frequencies, which are all based in fear. So this is how it's being created. So the only way to change it, stop it, is to simply release it, because we're Source. We don't realize we are holding it. You know, it's actually harder to hold like disease or anything in the body than it is to release it. Same with emotions. I mean, feel yourself sometimes. You know, when you're going along and you're relaxing, and then suddenly you have fear, and feel the energy. I mean, I give you an example. Say you're sitting down ready to eat, and you're so hungry, right? And there's a beautiful meal in front of you, and you're just ready to eat, and suddenly you get a distressing phone call. What happens, right? Your whole system shuts down. Everything just shuts down, right? It's so obvious. And we just blow this off all the time, just like, oh, that's normal. We're waking up now going, wait, we're consciousness, we're energy. I just created that, you know? I have a choice. It's not saying that things aren't distressful, but it's that I have a choice about my energy in relationship to this vehicle. You know, these are the kind of things that we're starting to wake up to. When you become the like conscious observer of yourself, and you begin to experience yourself, you know, that's how you start to feel all these things.
You know, I was raised by a quantum touch energy healer. My uncle, my entire life, he always kind of gave me a little bits of information here and there on, he practiced quantum touch energy healing modality. Mm-hmm. And he always told me that, you know, all disease starts from a vibrational level, and your vibrations being out of sync. And I've noticed it really seems that a lot of that comes from, like, when people have like cancer or very serious diseases, it almost always seems to me to stem from resentment and holding on to resentment. So I think that's really interesting what you said there about holding on to things, how hard it is to actually hold on to these things and how much energy is put into it. I know me personally, the last few years, I've spent a lot of time really trying to look into my life and look at these things that I'm holding on to. And, you know, forgiveness is such a powerful, amazing tool. And, you know, something I've been really looking at a lot is, like, it doesn't mean that, you know, if someone did something really horrible to you in your life, you go up to them and tell them, hey, it's okay, you did that. But it's like just working through the things in yourself and, like, you know, kind of like looking back into the situations you were in and kind of from a different angle. Yeah. Do you have any advice to give the audience on that and, like, letting go of these sort of things that come up?
Yeah. Well, I agree with you that forgiveness is huge, and it's mainly to forgive yourself, because we, you know, I mean, really, we judge ourselves, and we create all these anxieties and energies and so on within ourselves. You know, we tell our story, like even talking about if somebody did something to us, we hold that, you know, and we judge everything about ourselves in relationship to that. And so I think the key is, loving yourself. I mean, I literally will, ask, at times like, what's going on with you? What are you feeling? How are you feeling? What's happening? When I notice something going on, I'll pause. And then I started really noticing, like with the body, when you thank the body and you really love your body as a way of thinking, it's like, another person, or it's your best friend, or your child or something. And you think, oh my gosh, wow, you've been through so much, and I just want to love you so much, and I want to care for you. And it starts to make a huge difference, because again, we're indoctrinated with not doing that. We don't recognize that. Everything is so outward, and how somebody else looks at us or whatever, but we don't care. It's always, that's the idea of what this whole false matrix has done, is that it's always, sacrifice, because it's sacrificing one thing for the other. I'm going to sacrifice money for my, health or something, instead of actually like embracing what you are and what you desire and feeling. And we don't realize that, we're doing this to ourselves over and over again. And so, I mean, I think to practice, if you can be the observer of you, you are your higher self observing, because that's a real truth. And I like to describe this too, where it's like, if you can imagine that literally everything you see is a giant video game, and that, you are this character in the game, but you feel that you are the character in the game, but actually you are the one that is engaging the character. You are not the character in the game. And so if you can just start to imagine that you're the avatar, this avatar, you think you've become this avatar, but you're not. You are the one that's engaging that character. So if you start to have that kind of perspective of like, oh, I'm not this body, I'm actually the one engaging this body. So what's happening to the body? What is the body feeling? Who are you? What's going on with you? Really, and asking, because it is, an energy. And the more you practice this kind of thing, it gets easier and easier, and you'll start to go, well, that's interesting. And if you just get curious, and you have it be more interesting and more like, wow, what was that feeling? And you start to really be in a place of like, what, I'm just really not interested in that anymore. And you'll be surprised how it will not be a part of you. And it is, again, that's why I say a lot, this is really simple and really hard at the same time, because there's so much mind chatter about it.
Definitely. So in your bio, you mentioned working with these different collectives. So I'm curious to know a little more about that. Do you work with certain collectives, and what exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've worked with the Council of Nine for a long time, and they are a lot of galactic beings. There's, Jeshua is one that's part of that, and the Melchizedek, and there's some other energies, and I work with the Arcturians, the Andromedans, some Pleiadians, but say work with, but they really are collectives that come forward, in different energies and different frequencies for different reasons. There's also lots of collectives, like there's a collective of matter, there's a consciousness, they're all consciousness. There's a consciousness of matter that will come forward, that is literally the consciousness for, creating matter, like, physicality. There's consciousness of, various different energy type that just come forward. And, there's just lots of different, there's obviously the dolphins and whales, and there's just tons of different types of collectives that come forward that communicate. But I think some of the strongest lineage aspect for myself is the Arcturians and the Andromedans, and I'm realizing probably the Lyrian I have a divine feminine collective origination. It's all just coming in more clearer. But now it's like, a while ago there were more definitions. One thing that happened to me years ago, it was like 1996, I think, or something like that. I had never had a psychic reading. And so I ended up getting a reading. And I went to the psychic fair, and it was these little mini readings. And so I'm going around getting these readings. And kind of last minute, somebody said, "Oh, there's this woman, Ginny, who's, really great, never been here." So I was like, "Okay, I'll see her." And so I had a reading with her last, and, they were all just kind of generic readings. And anyway, for whatever reason, I took her card. And then later, when I went home, I decided that I would have a full reading with her. And, I was in Virginia, she was in Maryland, so I could have gone to her, but I decided to do it over the phone. And so at the time, she sends a tape. And it was, again, just kind of a generic reading. But I ended up getting the tape, and my tape was blank. And so I call her and I said, "My tape's blank." And she's like, "Oh, that's never happened. I think you can come here." And so when I came there, that's when I got introduced to the council and to, the Andromedans and all this. And I was told, that I did automatic writing. And so I started to do automatic writing, and that's where I was really connecting to a lot of these galactic groups. So it was really kind of interesting. And at that time, there was a lot more separation. It was just kind of getting an idea. Now, there's just so many energies and collectives that come in, and it's all about frequency. It's kind of the same thing that we're talking about here, about everything's energy and frequency and the matching. There are unlimited amounts of these collectives and energies that are beyond the linear mind, and it's pretty amazing when you can step into, often when I'm working and I just open the energy and you step into that 0 point, it's like, that's where, no thing and all things are. And so it's amazing the different collectives that will show up, and the energies that are here. And it's not just, to me, these are available and as you, because we're source energy and we're all in the same field. So I just want to kind of emphasize that when we talk about that. I have certain aspects that I work with and some more closely. One thing I will say is that being, working with the Andromedans a lot, I did bring forward, which I'll show you real quickly. This is, an Arcturian technology. So this is the frequency adjuster. And so this actually is the 0 point for the human template I just talked about. So when you align this, you are actually aligned to the 0, in the now moment. Also have one that I have on a T-shirt that has an Earth template. So there's two different. So anyway, the Arcturians are the ones that brought that forward as an Arcturian technology.
What is that made out of?
So this is actually made of wood. This is it's the second highest frequency wood on the planet. It's called Bobunga. It's from Africa. The highest frequency that I know of is the boni tree, and that's in the ashram. You can't make anything out of that. And this has special crystals inside of it that actually align you to it aligns all of your body systems, your chakra systems, your pure connection to source and the earth at the 0. So you have, this has 10 sides around it. We have 11 body systems. So each one of these represents a body system. And so there's an attunement that you do, it's at frequencyadjuster.com if anybody's interested. But this is, this creates, when we're talking about the 0 point, that's what this does. And this was not too long after, actually during the time that I was telling you before that I did the channeling, and or I had the reading, and then I realized I did the automatic writing. I channeled a healing center that this became the handheld tool of the healing center. It was basically the design. And I was kind of on a mission to put together the center, but I kept having all kinds of blocks. So eventually this came through. And when it initially came through, I said if it was only for me, it would have been great, because I found that from my experience of how I incarnated and everything going on with me, I was having a difficult time finding a neutral, because that's what this creates. You know, everybody who's having a difficult time trying to find that 0 point and sort of staying in it, this is the 0 point. So when your energy aligns to it, it basically brings your frequency into that. You know, and so that's what it did for me. So anyway, it's pretty cool.
That's really incredible. I definitely would like to feel that in person someday.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious. Do you think people kind of accidentally channel these collectives without realizing it all the time? Like I've noticed, like writers and inventors, a lot of times they seem to act out like several people from different sides of the planet will seem to like kind of start getting the same ideas at the same time, and it's like it's weird. It's like kind of like a collective thing where like it comes up and whoever kind of acts on it first, it's almost like these like waves kind of come up in people. Are these actually these different collectives that are kind of these people are tapping into?
I believe that, yes. I think it's a combination. I think there's collectives that may be bringing things, and other times I think that it may just be, I'm looking at it actually to tell you. So some of that is already in the consciousness of Gaia. And so Gaia is bringing it forward, and kind of whoever grabs it. So that's some of it here, because, you know, Gaia is also ascending. So I definitely saw that. And then there is kind of these downloads coming from certain collectives. And that's what this was, because I obviously was, you know, Arcturian. So I think that it was me, an aspect, like one of my soul fragments is like reminding me, hey, you had this. Oh, all right. That's why it was, you know, so easy for me to bring it forward in whatever it was. So yeah, I just got that clear as you asked. I was like, oh, I just saw a guy go. It was floating in the field. Like you can see a lot of things actually kind of in the field with her.
Wow. That's really incredible. And I'm curious to know with the automatic writing, that's something I've actually been really wanting to get into. How do you recommend someone just kind of sits down and starts doing that? Do you just kind of start writing whatever comes to mind? How exactly did you get into doing that?
Well, for me, I was told to do it at the same space and the same time, and just let go. So what I did, I was already hearing stuff and things, which I think most people are anyway. So I would suggest first kind of realizing, how do you take in information? Are you visual? Do you hear, you know, what's going on? Because it did kind of come in my head is what I realized. But what I did for the actual writing is I just sort of held the pen softly in my hand. And then as I would let go, and but I would hear it. So it was starting to write, and I got confused, like, am I making this up, whatever. So I told them, because it was first the council that was communicating, and I could tell there's a difference. I could feel the difference in frequency of, you know, whether somebody was doing it telepathically or whether it was a channel, and that's a little bit hard to describe, but I could just feel the differences. But so I asked, you know, to change my handwriting, do something different. So I normally go this direction, and they went this direction. So he changed it. And they also would write, "We are here," which I realize is Pleiadians, you know, would say, "We are here," you know, as well. So that was a kind of a constant thing. So you can ask to help you. Some people, like, I'm not a trance kind of, you know, doing any automatic writing. I'm very conscious, you know, about it. So I'm a little bit different. I think it depends if you feel like that it is something for you. And I think that really anybody can do it if they choose. it's more allowing. It's allowing for the information to come out. And I did have a little scribbling going on at first, and sometimes it would get really fast. And so it wasn't like I could reread it, but I knew it, so when you allow it, it's however you take in. That's why I say you have to kind of know how you're taking in the information. Some people are really great. They'll just write all this stuff out, but you can still channel though. Now it's different. So that was more like me being me and trying to bring in this information, right? But when you realize that this me is not me, and you become the observer of this you, and you start to just get this you out of the way by keep clearing, you can have an intent where I do all the time. I teach a lot of classes and I do a lot of activations. And so I kind of channel or I download the information. So I expand, my own consciousness and bring it. So it's kind of in essence of sort of automatic writing, but it's more channeled. But it moves very fast, similar. And in that, it's like you can really expand your mind if you let go, and you can get much greater information. And now for me, that's what happens. I get, and you just have to let it keep coming out, or whatever chooses.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this incredible information with us. We're wrapping up the hour now, so I'm wondering if you have anything else we didn't go over tonight that you would like to share with the audience before we wrap up here?
Nothing to share. How about we just do a quick kind of closing the energy or clearing a little bit? How about we do that?
I'd love to. Yeah,
sure. Ooh, let's take a couple deep breaths. We're just going to clear for everybody who's here, any and all of this mind matrix that's ready to be released from your entire being, your entire body. We're going to release this on a conscious, subconscious, and cellular level. Take a big breath and just imagine all that no longer serves you just floating right out of your body like little particles. Just allow it. Beautiful. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Cathleena. That was really incredible. I really enjoyed having you on, and I can't wait to meet you in person at Camp Disclosure in August.
Yay, thank you. Yes, you're a really light being, and thank you so much. I know you've been sleepy, so it was perfect. Yeah, I love your energy, so I look forward to seeing you as well.
I look forward to seeing you too. So before we get off here, is there any links, websites you would like to share with the audience so that they can reach you or check out your work?
Sure. CathleenaHailley.com and frequencyadjuster.com.
And to the audience out there, I have that all in the show description if you'd like to check that out.
Perfect. All right. And yeah, I have some YouTube and Cathleena Hailley as well. And of course, this one. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was so great to have you on.
Yay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. So next Tuesday, I will see you again on Apollo's Odyssey. Like I said, I am still doing every Tuesday and Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific. Also, make sure you check out the Shaman Spear store. help keep me going here. I have some really awesome ideas for the future, and I can't wait to start getting some scripts ready for some new shows that I'm going to be doing coming up here, some amazing scripted projects. So I'm really excited for that. So, and next week should be in the studio. So can't wait to show you guys the new studio when that's ready. So until next time on Apollo's Odyssey, over and out.
Take care.
Bye.